What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I've got great news. I'm a finalist for a Shorty Award. Go vote for your boy and make sure I bring this award home. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for making Club Shay a success.
First things first, a lot of moving parts before the NBA's trade deadline yesterday. Who are the big winners and the big losers? Hey, Dak's back under center in Dallas, but he might not be the key to a Cowboys Super Bowl run. We'll explain. And is it on the board Russell Wilson could still be on the move out of Seattle? Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall with a wardrobe change, clearly, and Kevin Wilds. What?
Big day yesterday in the NBA. Big day in the NBA yesterday. A lot of teams trying to get better, and then you got the Nets just standing strong. We don't have to do anything, and we're still better. We're still better. We're still better.
All right. So let's do it. Let's start in the NBA. A lot of movement yesterday, getting a lot of people excited. We're going to get to all of it. But we got to start with Clippers and Hawks. They swapped guards in this one. Rajon Rondo for Lou Williams and 2 second-round picks. So this deal, it's less about scoring for both sides, more about, I'd say, veteran leadership maybe for Ty Lue. Nick, how much better did the Clippers get, you think, with this trade?
Well, in the regular season, they didn't get better at all. Let me unpack this for America real quick. The reason the Clippers would make this trade is twofold. One is Lou Williams is a historically awful playoff performer. He can't guard, and the one thing he does do really well in the regular season, score, for a decade has fallen off a cliff in the postseason. So they recognize that he's not going to be able to help them win a championship. They also are recognizing that their offseason was a bit of a failure because they didn't upgrade the spot they most desperately needed to upgrade in the point guard position. And so what they end up doing is trading for a guy who has been this year, and I don't say this lightly, one of the worst players in the NBA. Now, so that's not an exaggeration. That's not me being a hot take guy. That is just, he's giving you 4 points. He's 217th in the league in PER. He's been injured. He hasn't been, let's call it all in. It was a disastrous signing for the Hawks. It might have been the single worst free agent signing anyone made, was the Hawks signing Rondo. With all that said, Brandon, the reason the Clippers did it is they saw what we all saw last year, which was Rondo, who wasn't this bad with the Lakers, but he was pretty bad with the Lakers in the regular season.
Right.
Transform into a different human being.
On your team.
I didn't believe in him. Right. So this isn't me just being, I didn't believe in him. I didn't want him playing for the Lakers. And then in the playoffs, starting with game 2 against the Rockets, he was exceptional. The Clippers are betting on that, Brandon. They are betting that he is going to flip a switch come the postseason and give them the point guard veteran leadership they need.
Nick, sometimes you just know who guys are. Look, they are now the clear-cut favorites to win the West, with LeBron James being down, AD still nursing that Achilles, that calf injury. Now the Clippers are the clear-cut favorites now that they add Rondo. Rondo does 2 things. He brings you the leadership, and he also takes pressure off of Kawhi and Paul George. When Kawhi's at his best, Nick, he's not ball dominant. And too many times, too often, he has to dominate the ball for this team to be good. So now you bring in Rondo, playoff Rondo. Now you have a chance to win it all. Look, Rajon Rondo, we know historically hasn't been, the greatest player in the regular season. But the last 4 or 5 years, the trend has been playoff Rondo is just different. I remember first coming on this show last year, and your team is the Lakers, and you were talking trash about Rondo. You didn't believe in Rondo, and what did he do? He turned into Rajon Rondo. This is a dude, a veteran guy who just won a championship, and then you send him down to Atlanta. Atlanta, that mess of a organization right now, of course he's not going to give you anything. I guarantee you, when Rajon Rondo lands in LA, he's going to be who we thought he was last year in the playoffs.
That's right, Brandon. The Clippers didn't trade for regular season Rondo. They didn't trade for Hawks Rondo. They traded for playoff Rondo. And then, Nick, just to dig into the numbers, let's look at playoff Rondo, who you didn't believe in. Oh, we got to get our Photoshop team on that Clippers jersey. Hawks Rondo was no good. His whole career, everything goes up. Points goes up. Rebounds go up. Assists go up. And then on the flip side, let's dig into Sweet Lou. Oh, Lemon Pepper Lou, everything down. Down in points, down in field goal percentage, down in three-point percentage. And Nick, I think you brought up a valid point, right? 15 minutes, 4 points for Atlanta Hawks Rondo. But don't you think that one of the savviest, smartest, and also mercurial guys in the league will be rejuvenated playing with Kawhi and Paul George?
Well, the argument against that is he could have signed up to play with Kawhi and Paul George this offseason. He didn't get sent to Atlanta. He opted to sign with Atlanta. He wanted to go there, he's been terrible.
More money.
I understand it wasn't a lot more money for the record. It was slightly more money. And by the way, the Clippers are now on the hook for the second year of this Rondo contract. I understand that last year I was calling for him to be a coach, not a player, all regular season. And then in the playoffs, he was excellent for the Lakers. So I am not going to act like that is an impossibility for him to recreate that. But he was better last year in the playoffs than the regular season. He's going to have to be dramatically better this year in the playoffs than the regular season, because this year's regular season, he's even worse. And it also has to be added this part, Brandon. He wasn't any good at all in the first round against the Blazers because he didn't play because he was injured, as he was injured during last year's regular season and the years before regular season, and as he was injured during this year's regular season. So a 35-year-old Rondo who is averaging 4 points a game, I think there is a chance he recreates what he did alongside LeBron and AD. But if you're banking on that, I think it's a risky bet, Brandon.
I'm all in. And I'm pot committed on playoff Rondo, and I'm pot committed on the Clippers. Before the year, I said the Clippers and the Nets are going to be in the championship. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Look, they are pot committed. They committed 5 first-rounders to start this whole all-in approach to win a championship. Now they give up 2 first-rounders and a little bit of cash for Rondo for just a couple of games in the playoffs. It makes sense to me, Jenna. I absolutely love it. We're going to see the Brooklyn Nets and the Clippers in the championship.
Well, you mentioned being pot committed. I don't know if you guys noticed, little reports, you'll like this, Wilds, out of Miami yesterday. That some of Miami's moves, you know what they did? They kept the money available in case Kawhi Leonard this summer decides to opt out of L.A. In case it goes bad in L.A., Miami and Pat Riley still just saying, hey, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, you wanted to play with Jimmy the first time around. You settled for Paul George. We'll be a soft landing spot. So there is a universe that exists, Jenna, where Rondo mentally destroys Paul George. The Clippers flame out again, and Kawhi's like, I'm out of here. That universe does exist, Jenna.
All right, this was just one of many trades that happened yesterday. There was one big notable trade that did not happen yesterday we're going to talk about, but we got to talk some Fox Super 6. They're giving away $1,000 for the round of 16 in the men's college basketball tournament. Download the Fox Super 6 app, answer 6 questions for free for your chance to win big money. With that, take a break. Much more First Things First right after this.
The brand new Fox Sports app is a finalist for the 13th annual Shorty Awards. I love it. I do not download any apps. I simply do not. I'm an old man. I don't know how to use my phone. I don't like apps. I don't like clutter. But the Fox Sports app is so sleek. It has everything you would ever want. So I got it on my phone. You should have it too. You should also vote for us for the Shorty Awards. You can vote in the description below. Vote once a day. Vote for the Fox Sports app. We are a finalist. We need this. Do it, America.
On Sunday, the under-23 men's national soccer team takes on Honduras for a berth in the Summer Olympics. It's the CONCACAF men's Olympic qualifying semifinal Sunday, 5:30 p.m. on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. All right, let's get to the NFL now. Talk some Russell Wilson. So the latest report says the door is actually still open for Russ to be moved and that a deal would not be limited to just the 4 teams Russ originally laid out: the Saints, the Cowboys, the Bears, and the Raiders. The old, but wait, there's more. Russ has been tweeting at Seahawks signees all off-season. Boss move. Brandon Marshall spent part of the 2018 season in Seattle with Russ. He's been ahead of the curve on this story from the beginning. So, Brandon, let me start with you. What is the most likely outcome at this point for Russell Wilson?
That he suits up in that same uniform right there. Look, guys, we had this conversation March 18th, all right? Now, and here's my notes from March 18th. Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks have realized they have one of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game. More wins than anyone in NFL history through 9 years. What they need to realize, if they want to be considered a Hall of Fame coach or general managers, they need to protect their quarterback. The greats demand protection. It's a must. You must protect your quarterback. If they don't, it will be a sad day in Seattle sports history. Just like when Ken Griffey Jr. left, just like the Sonics, it will be a bad day. Look, it was never about Russell Wilson leaving. That's not where this thing started. It wasn't about Russell Wilson leaving Seattle. It was about Russell Wilson wanting to win. He loves Seattle. But what happened is when him and Pete Carroll came together and they tried to talk about what they need to do together to move forward, Pete Carroll didn't want to listen. So Russell put the pressure on Pete Carroll. Look, if you're not going to be on the same page that I'm on as far as pushing us forward, then trade me. I need to move on because I don't want to continue to be just a mid-tier team, a mid-tier quarterback. I'm trying to ascend. It's about 3 things. What is our offense philosophy? What's going on with our offensive line? And also, are you finally going to invest in getting me key players and stop bargaining shopping? That's what they've been doing. So Seattle is now having this conversation when you see Pete Carroll and also Russell Wilson sitting at the table, Nick. So it was never about Russell Wilson leaving. It was always about Russell Wilson trying to figure out how to win. And that's what they're doing right now, is having those conversations.
All right, well, I have to push back on a couple things there. It was a little bit about Russell Wilson leaving when Russell Wilson's agent says here are 4 teams he would go to. That's a little bit about leaving. Maybe that wasn't the ultimate goal, but at least the door was cracked open. Yes, Brandon Tyrone.
Nicholas James Wright. Nicholas James Wright. You know about strategy. You know about strategy. That's what Russell Wilson used, was that tactic. Look, if you're not willing to do those 3 things, then I need to move on. And what happened? Now they're sitting at the table.
But then the follow-up though is this: what have the Seahawks done to show Russell Wilson they're taking his concerns seriously? They traded for Gabe Jackson. I actually like that move. And that upgrades the offensive line. Aside from that, they haven't done anything of major significance along the offensive line. We thought Zeitler might go there. He goes to Baltimore. The Chiefs obviously paid top dollar for Tooney. The Niners paid more than top dollar to keep Trent Williams. So those chess pieces off the board. The Seahawks yesterday, they brought back Carlos Dunlap. I like that move. I liked his addition midseason. But Pete Carroll's not going to be able to prove to Russell Wilson if he's going to change their offensive philosophy until the regular season gets going. The offseason, though, I would say, Brandon, tell me if you disagree, the returns are mixed at best, that they have listened to his concerns, which is why until Russell Wilson, who's very active on Twitter, tweets Seahawk for life, never going anywhere, I think this is going to continue to at least be a percolating story. Like, Brandon, do you think Seattle has shown via free agency that they are truly listening to Russell's concerns?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of conversations we're not privy to. And I think they're having a change of philosophy. When you look at how they've approached the offensive line, it's been terrible. They had 13 transactions in the draft, and all of those guys they brought in and they changed their positions. So now you go back to Damian Lewis, who they brought in as a guard. Damian Lewis played actually really well at times in spurts. So they bring him back as the guard. You just talked about Gabe Jackson. They signed back Big Poe, who they brought in as a center, moved to guard. So he spent 3 years at guard. Then all of a sudden they put him back at center last year, and he has his best year ever. So they just bring him back on a 2-year deal. So they have an opportunity with maybe one more move in a draft to potentially be a top 10 offensive line. And they go out and they sign Everett, the tight end. This is a dude who can ball, and this is not a bargain. They brought in Greg Olsen last year. That was a bargain. They brought in this guy, sorry, I'm talking third person, but they brought in this guy, Brandon Marshall, after 2 big surgeries in year 13 to try to help Russell Wilson out in his prime. They keep bargain shopping. So, Nick, I think they've low-key made some moves that where Russell Wilson, where Russell Wilson is actually happy with. I think they can go out there and contend. Now, the biggest question mark now, Kevin, is that defense. Can this defense hold up?
Okay, here's my Tom Cruise and a few good men moment. Then why does the list keep expanding, Brandon? If Seattle's doing all this stuff and they're back at the table and Russ is saying, hey, congratulations, Chris Carson, why is the list keep expanding? We used to have 4 teams, now we have more. We don't know what it is, but there's more teams coming.
What are the more
no one
teams?
knows why.
Who are the teams?
There's more.
Who are the teams?
That's a great question. So I've decided to bring back America's favorite mid-segment game. Nicholas, you know, with bated breath, you've been waiting as well as you. The wisdom of the envelopes. Oh, Brandon, the wisdom of the envelopes. What is the mystery team that is also now on Russell Wilson's list? You get to pick one, the wisdom of the envelopes. Envelope 1, 2, or 3, Brandon. Please pick one.
I'm gonna go with 3. I'm gonna go with 3. Russell Wilson's number
3. Here we go.
Oh, that's great.
I got it right that time.
The mystery team, according to the wisdom of the envelopes, is Brandon's beloved New York Jets are offering up pick number 2, pick number 23, pick number 34, and Sam Darnold. You don't like that? Okay.
Yes.
They've got 6 of the top 98 picks. Brandon, the Jets should be on Russell Wilson's new and expanded mysterious list. Do you still like him for the Jets? And just before you answer, I know we talk about him wanting to be a legend. You talk about legends. Joe Namath won 1 Super Bowl, is an absolute icon and legend.
For life.
So if he really wants to win, come to New York and you get that legendary status.
Listen, I absolutely love it. You know I love the Jets, but the reality is we got to deal with reality. And I talked to someone in Russell's camp close to him, and I talked about the Jets, and they were like, it's not happening. So I'm sorry, Jets fans. It's not happening. I don't think that excites him because he wants to go win, and he doesn't think that, he can win there. That's from people that's close to Russell Wilson. I think the best opportunity Russell has to win now is staying in Seattle, Nick.
I think that's probably right, especially because it's not free agency where you would be joining a ready-made team. You would be being traded to a team, and what the team would have to give up, even if it's previously a good team, what the team would have to give up to get you would potentially really hurt their ability to compete for championships. So I agree with you. His best chance to win of the realistic options is staying in Seattle. However, Russell Wilson, I understand it's early on the West Coast, but he's good buddies with old Brandon Marshall. I'm sure he at least watches the clips. He knows we're talking about this. Pete Carroll, he and Jenna Wolfe go back years and years and years. I know he watches the clips. Guess what? We're not the only show talking about this. Every sports show in America has been talking about this. You hope Pete Carroll doesn't watch the clips. You're not getting invited to the reunion of the 2018 Seahawks. Every sports show in America has been talking about this for 6 weeks. John Schneider, Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, 0 for 3 on any of them, coming out and publicly saying, stop talking about this. This is stupid. This isn't happening. And Russell Wilson, it's not because he's gone zero dark 30 mode. He's doing videos, doing Peloton in the Bane mask. He's tweeting. He's doing everything. Like this idea that Russ couldn't just thumb out, go Hawks, the Seahawks for life, or Pete Carroll do an interview saying, hey, we heard there was discussions with Chicago. I wasn't involved in those. We'd never trade him. Until one of them does that, this is going to continue to percolate, and that's fair. That's not a media creation. That is a totally fair reading of the situation.
But you just got to think about it. The best place for Russell Wilson is in Seattle. He's already won a Super Bowl there. He's a legend. He's never going to pay for a steak another day in his life out there in Seattle. So why would he want to leave? You got to think about Pete Carroll. Brandon. Pete Carroll, the pressure was put on Pete Carroll. This guy has not changed in over 40-something years of coaching. Now all of a sudden, the Chicago Bears step up. They offer all of Chicago land. He turns it down. Now he's finally saying, you know what? I do have the winningest quarterback in 9 years. I do have one of the greatest quarterbacks. Let's try to figure this out. That's what's happening. So until they can get to a concrete solution, there's going to be a little gray for some time, a couple weeks, guys.
It certainly appears that way. Russ is saying, I want to be here. Make it so that I could stay. Yeah. Show me something so I could stay. This is where I want to be. So, again, until we hear something, this conversation continues. Take a turn, talk some Lakers now. Hey, how surprised is our guy Nick? They decided not to make any moves before the deadline. Why don't we ask him next? First things first.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we can all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
For the first time in over 50 years, the NASCAR Cup Series is going dirt racing this weekend up at Bristol. Hall of Famer Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, and the rest of the NASCAR on Fox crew, they got you covered starting tomorrow on FS1, and then coverage of the race is Sunday at 2 Eastern on Fox. Brendan, I'm excited. I know you're excited. You literally talk about it every day. You tell us, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, it's the best season ever in NASCAR. You guys got to tune in. And I'm going to do something right now. You guys don't even have to watch this race. Okay? You got the trucks, you got the Cup Series, and I'm going to tell you who's going to win. History's about to be made, Nick. You got Stuart Friesen, you got the dirt racer from the Northeast, and he's actually competing in both the truck and the Cup Series. In the truck series, he's competing against his wife, Jessica. So you're going to see Jessica win the truck series, and then you're going to see Stuart Friesen win the Cup Series when it comes to the cars. It's going to be amazing.
Parlay.
There you go.
Let's do it. Let's make some money, America. I'm betting on both of this. Let's do it, Jenna. Let's do it.
All right, this weekend on Fox, let's take a turn to the NBA now. A lot of trades going down before yesterday's deadline, but the Lakers not involved. They were rumored to be going after Kyle Lowry, but the point guard ended up staying in Toronto, probably the biggest surprise of the day. Lakers now reportedly will turn to the buyout market for any additions. So here's how things look out west. You got your Lakers holding down the 4th spot ahead of a crowded field. And we got Chris Broussard with us now to help talk about all this, break it down. Broussard, you think the Lakers cost themselves by staying put at the deadline?
Well, let me start by saying this, Jenna. If LeBron James and Anthony Davis are fully healthy come playoff time, a few weeks before the playoffs, I still like the Lakers in the West. They're still my favorite, although the Clippers and the Nuggets definitely got better. However, I do think the Lakers missed an opportunity. They should have gotten Kyle Lowry. If indeed the reports are true that they could have gotten him for Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and the sticking point was them not wanting to throw in a 20-year-old Taylor Horton Tucker, they made a mistake. Because if they get Kyle Lowry, they're the prohibitive favorites in the West. And then in many people's eyes, I think they become the favorites in the entire league. Now, this is nothing against THT. He's a nice young player. But for the Lakers, it is about winning now. It is about maximizing LeBron James's present. All right? He's 36. He's in his 18th year, and he's been hurt seriously in 2 of his 3 seasons with the Lakers. How much longer do you have with him? You don't know. So I'm not worried about a 20-year-old who doesn't project to me to be a star down the line. Even if he does, I'm not worried about the future. I'm worried about winning as many rings as I can with LeBron right now. And their depth still would have been fine. You were giving up 3 players, I get it. But you still would have been 10 deep. You could have started, you would have started Kyle Lowry, Wesley Matthews. If you get Andre Drummond, he's your center. If not, you still got Marc Gasol, LeBron, and AD. Then you got Alex Caruso, Markieff Morris, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma. And again, if you get Drummond, Gasol off the bench, that's 10 deep. How deep are you going in the playoffs? They made a mistake. The only thing that justifies this, in my view, is if the Lakers know secretly that LeBron and AD or AD are not likely to come back 100% this year, and they think the window is closing on winning it this year.
Wow.
That's it. That's the only way.
Sometimes Broussard and I disagree on more opinion-based stuff, who's going to win in the future. Very rarely do we disagree on things that already happened, the analysis of events that just happened. We vehemently disagree here. I love Kyle Lowry. I think he would have been perfect for the Clippers. I think he would have been perfect for the Sixers. And I think he would have really helped the Lakers. There's a reason, and Miami, by the way, there's a reason he went to none of those places. And that's because Masai Ujiri wanted a king's ransom from all of those teams. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was the 3rd most important player in the Lakers championship run last year. He's having a bit of a down year this year. He was excellent for them in the postseason. Dennis Schroeder has been the 3rd best player on the team this season if LeBron and AD are the top 2, even though they've been out. And Taylor Horton Tucker, it's not just about the long term. He has been a rotation guy this year. He's been better than Wesley Matthews, who you were throwing in the starting lineup. I would have loved for the Lakers to get Kyle Lowry. That price was too high. It would have hurt their ability to get through 4 rounds of the playoffs, and it would have hurt their ability to get through the next 4 weeks when LeBron is out, potentially Anthony Davis out for a bulk of it as well. So I believe what LeBron said before he got hurt, Wilds. I like this team. I don't think we need to make any major moves. I think adding Andre Drummond will upgrade their biggest weakness on the roster, which is Marc Gasol hasn't been the guy they thought he would be. But I could, if I'm Rob Pelinka, I am not giving up KCP, Schroeder, and Taylor Horton Tucker to pair with a 36-year-old LeBron James, a 35-year-old 5'11" point guard, no matter how much I love him. Because the other part of this, let me just add this quickly, Wilds. If you traded for Lowry, you were going to have to sign him to an extension. That's one of the reasons nobody did, because it was the cost and the extension. And I don't think the Lakers window is just this year. I think it's the next 3 years. And I think signing up for Lowry and moving off some of that flexibility wouldn't have necessarily been good for this year, and certainly wouldn't have been good for the years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, you have an optimistic viewpoint if you think the window is 3 years open. I think Broussard's got a point here, because mixed in with all the trade news yesterday was reports that Anthony Davis is a ways away, I think was Vogel's quote, and LeBron's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. But I agree that it's not necessarily just a Kyle Lowry thing, like we need Kyle Lowry to win. I think the buyout market, Brandon, sort of swings in the Lakers' favor. Not only can you add Andre Drummond, you got LaMarcus Aldridge rumors out there, but I think Avery Bradley ends up coming back too. So like, all right, now we don't get as much scoring as Lowry, but we get sort of that leadership that we were missing last year, even though missing him led to a championship.
Yeah, listen, Wilds, Toronto straight tripping. For a 35-year-old player on an expiring contract and you're asking for the world, you're tripping. You had an opportunity to go out there and get something in return. So what it seems like to me is that Kyle Lowry in Toronto is probably going to extend this thing, and he's going to end his career there because this was your moment to get it done. I'm with you, Chris, all the way on this. Nick, 3 years? Please, man, like I get it. But Father Time is undefeated, and you just don't know. So, yeah, LeBron James will probably play 3 years, 4 years. Hell, he can play 5 years. But at what level? Right now, you're in a moment. Right now, you can go catch Michael Jordan. You got to go get it done. So I'm not an NBA insider, but my little quick Google search, I heard that it was 2 first-rounders and then an extension for Kyle Lowry where he's asking for $25 million plus. You have to figure this out because you have an opportunity to go win back-to-back and potentially another championship. So it just doesn't make sense to me why this deal didn't get done, Chris.
Yeah, look, Kyle Lowry's playing great basketball. He's 35, but he's 17.6 assists and 39% shooting from 3. The Lakers needed to upgrade the shooting. THT is the 10th man, Nick. He's 10th on the team in minutes. With LeBron out these last several games, he's done nothing. He played 19 minutes last night. They need help. He played 19 minutes. 19 minutes the game before. And again, his future may be bright, but he's a 25% three-point shooter in a three-point shooting league. He's a 6'4" 2 guard. All right, I mean,
but it was
again,
KCP
he's fine,
and Schroeder as
but
well.
it is about
it wasn't
winning
just
now.
him. But it was KCP and Schroeder as well, Broussard.
KCP played well in the finals last year. I'll give you that. But that's not necessarily who he is. That was a hot run. He's not their third best player. Schroeder, I would have got everything I get from Schroeder with Lowry, plus much better three-point shooting and championship
let me just
pedigree.
add this.
And KCP shoots 3 threes a game. Lowry gives me 7. You would have improved your chances of winning.
I like Lowry more than any of those players individually, obviously. I vehemently disagree with you guys that the Lakers should be operating as if the world ends in 12 months or 18 months when you have Anthony bleeping Davis on a max contract for another 5 years, and LeBron, prior to suffering a freak ankle injury, was either leading or second in the MVP voting, coming off a finals MVP, not exactly trending downwards. But I do feel like, Jenna, we are being a bit of prisoners of the moment in this regard. 96 hours ago, no one in the world was saying Lakers got to get Kyle Lowry because nobody thought they were going to get Kyle Lowry. Woj dropped that bomb, and Wendy did as well over the weekend, and all of a sudden it gained momentum. We thought a week ago today the Lakers would be standing pat at the deadline, and nobody thought that would be a disaster for them. Nobody. So I just think we got a little overexcited about, they could add Lowry when that was never really part of the plan.
No, you're right. We talked Miami and the Sixers all day yesterday. It wasn't that we really thought he was going to go out to LA. Time for a special edition of Nick's NBA Medals. Okay, so let's stay with the trade deadline. A lot of guys on the move yesterday. Nick, which teams do you think were medal winners at the deadline?
Oh, Broussard, you're going to like this. We're going bronze medalist, Miami Heat. The Miami Heat say, hey, we're not going to pay 120 cents on the dollar for Kyle Lowry. We're going to pay 12 cents on the dollar for Victor Oladipo and get a little bit better anyway. They get Victor Oladipo for nothing as that James Harden trade. The early returns for Houston, not great. Silver medalist, another team that ended up out of the Lowry sweepstakes. The Sixers add playoff veteran, proven performer George Hill to upgrade their finishing 5. I love Seth Curry. Seth Curry can't be on the court in the final minutes of a game because he can be attacked. George Hill replaces him there. The Sixers get him for essentially nothing. And Broussard, the biggest winners of the deadline, the Lakers. You know why?
What?
Guess what? Utah looked around and said, LeBron's hurt, Anthony's hurt, this is our year. No, it's not, we do nothing. Phoenix looked around, LeBron's hurt, Anthony Davis is hurt. And you see what's on the screen? That's what they did. Nothing.
Yes, nothing.
The contenders in the West, aside from Denver, Denver added Aaron Gordon to replace Jeremy Grant, who they let walk this offseason. None of the contenders in the West upgraded in any substantial way. So the biggest winner is the Lakers because everyone looked around and said, we can't beat them. So why would we make a move? Why would we go all in? So there it is, Broussard. Your winners of the NBA trade deadline. What say you?
I have nothing.
None of the contenders in the West improved in a significant way.
Correct.
Did you see what the Clippers did? And I'm not saying it's Rajon Rondo from 2010.
4 points per
but they got better, Nick. They needed a point guard to get them in sets at the end of games. They got better. Playoff Rondo, who helped your Lakers win the championship last year. And then Denver, you just pooped
The Lakers
what Denver did.
may not make
Aaron
the
Gordon
playoffs.
and JaVale McGee? JaVale McGee
Brandon
helped them
said the
too.
Lakers might not make the playoffs. Brandon,
Yes,
can
I'm
we
saying
please
it.
put a side bet on that?
Oh,
I'll give you 12
when is
to 1.
AD? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll
Okay.
take it. I'll take it. 100%.
And Broussard, Denver
Save a little
got
of that
better
action for me,
than they
Brandon.
were in the moment. But they
Right,
just
right.
replaced the guy that they lost last year
Oh, you want in?
in Jeremy Grant that they had when the Lakers beat them in 5, Jenna. So Denver didn't get demonstrably
Go ahead,
better.
Wilds.
No, they didn't.
I'm telling you,
Jump in
playoff
here.
Rondo's going to come back to haunt you. You said this about him when he was on your favorite team. Now he's going to go up against you. He's going to eat you up again. It's going to your karma. You're due to have a bad karmic moment with playoff Rondo. You deserve it from last year for doubting him.
Jenna, not on the medal stand.
All right.
The Celtics.
I know.
Evan Fournier
I knew
doesn't
that was
quite
coming.
get you there.
I
Chicago.
was
Sorry.
trying to get to football before we talked Celtics. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about the Cowboys. Why is Dak perhaps not the key to a Cowboys Super Bowl run? We'll explain next. Celtics have a plan. You're just not privy to it. We are back on a Friday morning. We're talking Dallas Cowboys now. So Mike McCarthy's first season in Dallas, how do I put this gently, was terrible. They lost Dak. Their offense wasn't great. Their defense was even worse than their offense, which is why Mike McCarthy said his main focus this season will be on the defensive side of the ball. Here he is explaining why they struggled so badly last year.
We tried to change too much on defense would if we're looking for a mistake, and I don't think it's a mistake. We didn't get it done. So and that's just we went in with too much volume, but this was all part of the direction that Jerry and Steve and I, when we sat down, we felt that this football team, the direction it needed to go. So there was definitely some miss on the understanding of what fits and what didn't fit.
So just to recap, they came in too hot. All right, here it is. Cowboys defense last season, pretty dismal in every category. Guy that knows a little thing or two about defense, former Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington joining us this morning. Lamar, thanks for getting up. Appreciate it. Always good to have you. Are you buying McCarthy's reason for the defensive struggles last season?
I'm not buying that you called me Lamar. Lamar is so famous.
Did I call you
and
Lamar?
all that good stuff. I get it all the time because of Lamar Jackson being so famous. Anyway, I do not buy it. This is what I buy, guys. And here's what's interesting. If you ever went to buy a burger and you got the burger and then you realize after you got the burger that the person that cooked you the burger never cooked burgers ever in their life, I would think that the burger wouldn't be as good as it needed to be. Now, here's where I'm coming from right now. Mike Nolan was the problem with the Cowboys defense. Mike Nolan's never really been a successful coach. And I brought up the burger thing, the reference, because B. Marsh, you played offense, you played receiver, right? If you went to coach and you were coaching linebackers and you were coaching the defensive side of the ball the entire time, or say receivers the entire time of your career. And then at some point you go somewhere and they make you a defensive backs coach. And then the next year you're the coordinator. Something isn't right. Now, y'all may not be following me, but Mike Nolan has never been a successful head coach. And then he coaches positions and ends up inheriting, after being hired to the Ravens as a receivers coach in 2001, inherits the defenses of 2002 through 5 with the Ravens. How good did you have to be as a coach to coach that Ravens unit? He's for some strange reason, Mike Nolan has moved around the league very much. And has not been very good. That's I mean, it's just simple reason.
Well, here's the deal, Lamar. Okay. I love your burger reference.
Yeah, you don't want a burger. If you ain't never made a burger, don't make me a burger. Fat boy talk.
Right.
Fat boy talk.
But here's the thing. You know, we are just talking about Russell Wilson. I just went back to my notes from March 17th about this whole Pete Carroll and what's happening there. I can go back to my notes going back to week 4 in the National Football League during the season. And we had this discussion around this defense. I had Coach Nolan as my defensive coordinator in Denver. And then also I had him as my defensive coordinator in Miami. And what I said was, it's too complex. When you get to Friday or you get to Saturday's walkthrough, we're talking about 24 hours away from a game, and all of my guys on the defensive side got scripts out on the sideline. I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? It was too complex back then, and it was too complex now. So I'm absolutely buying what Coach Mike McCarthy is saying, because that's what I said in week 4. It's way too complex. I reached out to those guys on my team that had Coach Nolan, and you're right, because I'm on the offensive side. I don't know everything. I'm not privy to all the information. I'm saying, why isn't this working? What makes this so difficult? And they said it's just too complex. He does too much. You got to have really sophisticated guys. And to your point, you're going back to the Baltimore Ravens. Who did they have? They had some of the smartest players. Lewis. You talking about Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Come on, man. Yeah, so, Nick, I am buying what Coach McCarthy's saying.
So I'm not saying you shouldn't buy what he's saying. What I am going to say is it's the only thing he can sell, so it's what he's selling. Because what he does not have available to sell to the audience is, we're going to be better on defense because look at all these new defensive players we got. They don't have them. Keanu Neal's their only significant defensive addition. Other than that, it's guys making $2 or $3 million. They are going to be trotting out there, in large part, the same unit. So if you want to tell the audience and your fans you're going to be better, Wilds, this is all that they can say. Now, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's not accurate as to why they struggled. But whether it was right or wrong, the only rationale the only reason to have hope the Cowboys defense will be better is going to be schematics and coaching, because aside from Keanu Neal, in large part, it's going to be the same groups of guys out there, Wilds.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Is it the schematic or is it the people? And it reminds me of my favorite scene in every sort of crime movie. It's like Denzel or Clive Owen or somebody. They get there and they're looking at all the evidence and they're like, we got to follow the money. If we follow the money, we'll be able to figure it out. And it's like, okay, yeah, follow the money. And then like the nerd comes in like, I've been following the money. So if we follow the money for Dallas, doesn't look like they care that much about the defense. Looks like they care a lot about the offense. So it's great to have a bunch of wide receivers, great to pay Zeke a lot of money, but when you're 31st in spending, it just feels like the priority is on scoring points and not on defense. So yeah, maybe it's part scheme, but maybe it's also personnel.
Give me $59 million. I'll build a defense.
All right, look at that. Let's set the Cowboys aside, talk about a team that did spend some money this offseason, New England Patriots. Latest report says trade that sends Jimmy Garoppolo to New England still in play, Wilds. Still in play. Wilds has been talking about this since birth. Kind of shocking. The Pats did re-sign Cam just a couple weeks ago, Cam Newton. So, Brandon, let me start with you. What are the chances that Jimmy G is New England's Week 1 starter?
I mean, man, Nick, you know I hate the what ifs. I remember me and Nick got into this argument one time because I'm like, I don't want to talk about no what ifs. And Nick's like, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. This is what our job, we get paid to do this. And I'm like, bro, it's what ifs. And nothing has changed, Nick. I'm sorry, but where is this report coming from? And does it really make sense? Look, if let's say Jimmy G does get traded there's two things going to happen. One, Cam Newton will win the quarterback battle. If he's still there and they're competing, I truly believe Cam Newton will beat out Jimmy G. And the other side of this spectrum will be this. Jimmy G gets traded to the New England Patriots. Wow, and you've been calling for this for months. Then what happens is Cam Newton is now going to come in and say, release me. You really think Cam Newton wants to compete with Jimmy G? That is a disrespect. This is a dude that's coming out every single day saying how this is his moment, his payback moment. This is his opportunity to tell us that, look, I told you that I was still a baller in the National Football League. So this big what if stuff, whatever. If we have to talk about it, then I'm going with Cam Newton to beat Jimmy G out if he doesn't ask for a trade or release.
Okay. So first of all, embrace the what ifs. Stop fighting the what ifs because you're actually pretty good at the what ifs. Because you're like, well, if he gets traded, then Cam's going to ask me to release. And where's he going to sign? Maybe he goes to Washington and backs up Fitz. He takes Fitz's job. Like, great job, Brandon, for not liking the what ifs. You did a wonderful job. Nick, I think there's too much smoke here for there not to be a fire. So we know that Shanahan is not in love with Jimmy G. He'll flirt with any quarterback walking past him. Gardner Minshew is the latest report. We know that Bill Belichick loves Jimmy G. We know that Bill Belichick has been wildly aggressive, upgrading every position on the Patriots except quarterback. It doesn't make a ton of sense. But Brandon brings up a good point. Says, hey, well, he said all these nice things about Cam's leadership, Cam's incentive-laden contract. Here's a take. Tell me what you think of this. As much as you dislike the game plan down in New Orleans, I do think there's value in having Jimmy G start and inserting Cam every once in a while for a different look. I know you hate it, but I think Cam still has a role in the team. I don't think Cam would ask for his release. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Here's what I don't hate. I don't hate that. And I don't hate the what ifs. I've made an entire career on what ifs. I love them, and I'm going to get Brandon around to my side of it. I've created fake trades and fake GM and fake drafts for 15 years. It's worked out great. So I love the what ifs. What I don't like is the Boston media cabal trying to speak into existence things that are not going to happen. Y'all were never trading for Anthony Davis. Y'all are never trading for Jimmy G. Stop. Wilds is like, there's so much smoke, there's got to be fire. The smoke is being caused by folks like you, Wilds, continuing to talk about something that is in no basis in fact. They're like, oh, Belichick loves Jimmy Garoppolo. Based on what? The fact that he traded him for a second rounder 3 years ago? Or that he spent a second rounder on him 7 years ago? Like, oh my God, he just loves Jimmy G. And by the way, the Niners, LeVar, might not love Jimmy G, but they're not going to hand the reins over to C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins. They don't have another option. So I do like the what ifs, but we might as well be talking. You know who the Patriots, LeVar, should target? And I know Belichick loves him. Mahomes.
Mike Nolan.
He loves him. He thinks he's amazing.
That's a great idea.
He thinks he's a great player. They should target him. Maybe they can get him for Edelman and the 15th pick. I mean, it's so silly. I just hate this story.
I hate to give up Edelman. If we have to give up Edelman, no.
Head coach, they got him coaching receivers. Why not make Mike Nolan the quarterback of your team? I mean, maybe that's likely. I don't know. Hey, listen. Garoppolo could go to the Patriots, and I think it's very likely that they're looking at this. How likely it is for him to end up there, it depends on what the San Francisco 49ers want. And I think that's probably the biggest part of the conversation is what is the compensation to get Garoppolo? But make no mistake about it, as good as Belichick has been at putting together his teams and coaching his teams, he is under tremendous pressure this year to produce. and he needs to produce right away. So if they have the opportunity to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, who they know is familiar with the offensive scheme, who they believe can probably lead this team back to some wins, I could see it being highly likely that they try to bring Garoppolo in and see who wins the job between him and Cam, because Cam is a valued prospect. You didn't have to pay very much for him. So that means if it works out, great. If it doesn't, if he's a backup, that's fine. Yeah. It just depends on what the price tag would be to be able to bring Garoppolo in.
You said if 15 times in 2 minutes. If was a fifth.
Ooh, you be staggering.
Yeah, but we've all made careers out of it, Brandon. Let's shift back to hoops. The Clippers went out, got some veteran leadership, trading for Rajon Rondo. How much better did they get? We'll see. But first, check out Rondo's new teammate, Terrence Mann's excitement for his team's move.
Hey, Terrence, so you said you have Rondo's rookie card in your wallet still?
Yeah, right? I want to see it. Can I show it?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Still got it. Let's see that.
Oh, let's go.
Still got it. Got to get him to autograph it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Nah, so, I've had it since 8th grade, 7th grade, something like that. 7th grade, I think.
Time now for drawing a blank. All right, here we go. The Nuggets made maybe the biggest playoff splash of the day. They got Aaron Gordon from Orlando trying to make a run out west. But Brandon, the winner of the NBA trade deadline yesterday was blank.
Yeah, we're missing it. NBA trade deadline. All the business didn't have to happen yesterday. We had so much time to get business done. The winner is the Nets. The guy that was available for so many other teams, the Nets picked him up in James Harden. So they're the clear-cut winners because they got the deal done January 13th. And now they're sitting there while everybody else is scrambling, trying to get these deals done. The Lakers trying to get Lowry. The Clippers bring in, who I like, Rajon Rondo. But now we're sitting here in our rhythm and waiting to get these three back on the court together. This is the winner, the Nets.
Brandon, you are so good usually about answering the question. The question has to do with this week. That happened months ago. You're just trying to shoehorn the Nets into it because they did literally nothing. They did nothing yesterday. What are you talking about? All right, the winner of the deadline was the Sixers. Sometimes the best moves are the ones you don't make. And while I thought Kyle Lowry would be perfect with Philly, they were going to, and this is what was demanded. This isn't speculation. They were going to have to give up Tyrese Maxey, Halliburton, Danny Green, not Halliburton, pardon me. He doesn't play for them. Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, Danny Green, and 2 first-round picks. That would have been paying 160 cents on the dollar for Kyle Lowry. Instead, they got George Hill for essentially nothing to supplement their guard rotation and replace Seth Curry at the end of games. So I think the Sixers did great. Not surprising, they have the best GM in the league, but I think they were the clear-cut winners yesterday, Wilds.
Second best.
I think I was happy for Drake yesterday and the fact that Kyle Lowry didn't move on. We had a miniature goodbye party, miniature retirement party from the Raptors, and we're like, oh, it's been a great time with Kyle Lowry here. We'll see him later. Nope, not gonna happen. He's still here, so I'm happy for Drake. But Nick, I've got to ask you a question. What is going on with the Toronto/Tampa Bay Raptors? For me, the sword of apathy cuts both ways, because when the Raptors are good, they're like, oh, how come no one's paying attention to us? But Siakam's great. All right, and now they signed Van Fleet to a big contract. Siakam's fallen off the map. They're kind of rebuilding because they were going to ship out Lowry, but now they're not. So what's your take on what the future outlook is for the Raptors and what Masai is up to?
Okay, well, I think what people might get mad at this. I think what Masai might be up to is figuring out where he's going to work next. I don't think Masai is long for Toronto. Not because they're going to fire him, but because they would never fire him, but his contract's expiring and he would be very sought after. And I think that, listen, they've got Van Vliet, they've got Siakam, they've got OG. I think they're looking at this year as we have to play in Tampa. COVID wrecked our team. Well, and that next year, I think they have a good, decent core. But when you look at the East, Brandon, Brooklyn's young and excellent. Philly is young and excellent. Milwaukee's young and excellent. Miami is not young, but they're good. And maybe one day someone will know how to run the Celtics and they'll be able to take advantage of Tatum and Brown. There's 5 teams far better than them.
Every chance
and
they get.
So, and one other note, though. One other note on the Raptors. They'll get something for Lowry because I think they'll sign and trade him this offseason. They won't get as much as they were asking at the deadline, but I don't think he'll walk for nothing. So I think they'll get a little something for him this offseason, but certainly not Tyler Hero like they were asking for at the deadline, Jenna.
Ridiculous.
All right, here we go. On to Houston now. Rockets dealt Victor Oladipo down to Miami. Didn't exactly get a huge trade haul back. So, Brandon, the loser of the NBA trade deadline was blank.
Oh, this is obvious. The more I'm around you, Nick, the more I see the Celtics problem. It's Danny Ainge, Jenna. I'm sorry to tell you. But last year, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, and now they're below 500. You're wasting these guys. Tatum, like, what are you going to do? Nick, I see it. The problem is Danny Ainge, and the losers are the Celtics. Once again, he doesn't participate. He does nothing.
Yeah, let's stay here for a second before I give my answer. Listen, the Celtics made a trade at the deadline for the first time in 7 years, and the trade was Evan Fournier for 2 second-round picks. They threw in Jeff Teague as well. They had this massive trade exception. Why did they have a trade exception? Because they got, instead of trading Gordon Hayward for Miles Turner, as was offered, they're like, no, we're going to trade him for a trade exception with Charlotte because we're going to use that trade exception to get a good play, and you get Evan Fournier. It's been, the Kemba Walker thing has been a disaster. It looks like the Terry Rozier decision was a bad one. Tristan Thompson decision has been a disaster. The draft picks, aside from Tatum and Brown in large part, have been disasters. And so there's no getting around that the Celtics window, it's not closed because you have Tatum and Brown. But you should have made the finals in the last few years, and you haven't. And the team is worse now than it was 3 years ago, which should be unspeakable. So, Brandon, you and I agree on that. We're going to disagree on this, though. The biggest loser of the deadline was the team you said was the biggest winner. It's the Nets.
Wow.
And here's why.
Oh, wow.
Here's why. Who are the Nets competing with? On a lower level, they're competing with the Heat, right? Okay, so that's the interesting thing. And maybe we can put Brandon up here for a moment. Brandon thinks, and by the way, he's not the only one. Brandon's not the only one who thinks the Nets are just drastically, demonstrably, way better than everybody else. I don't agree with that. If you also don't agree with that, you, the audience, then think about what happened yesterday. The Heat, who I don't think are going to make the finals, but the Heat got better. They're the 4th best team in the East. The Bucks, who are in the top 3, they added PJ Tucker a few days ago. That's a huge addition. And the Sixers added George Hill. So all 3 teams that you are going to be playing in the 2nd and 3rd round of the playoffs, Brandon, all got better. And the Nets stood
Where's
pat.
my jerseys?
That's a problem. You're wearing
jerseys?
them. You're wearing your jersey. Brandon, do you disagree with what
Nick,
I said?
The reason why, listen, 100% I disagree. Yesterday, my James Harden jersey came in. That's why I'm wearing it. Right here, I have Kyrie Irving. And then the KD jersey is somewhere. I don't know where I misplaced my KD jersey, but it's somewhere around
Nobody
here.
can find him
Nick,
either.
That's why they're not competing against anyone. They have the purest scorers in the NBA on one team, 3. And when we talk about modern basketball and how we play in the NBA today, it's all about getting buckets. And these guys are walking buckets. Everybody else, you can have a big 2. It's not enough. You can have a big 3, and it's not enough because you don't have these guys. These guys are averaging 25-plus points a night. And when they come back together, James Harden, if you want to be who you've been the last 7 years in Houston or whatever it was in the playoffs, fine. Kyrie Irving and KD can hold you down. Go take a night off. That can't happen in LA, Nick. It can't happen. It can't happen in Miami if you want to stay in the Eastern Conference. Those guys have to play lights out, night in and night out. And this team, they got depth when you talk about walking buckets. Okay. That's why.
I think the rest of the East got better yesterday, Wilds, and the Nets didn't. I think that's a problem for them.
All right, here's my confusing part. The Magic. Do you like what they did? Because they were like, they won a playoff game. Like, oh, the Magic, they've been in the playoffs last 2 years. And then the team looked at it like, you know what? We don't have any real superstars. We're out on all you guys. We're going to trade 3 of our starting 5. So, Nick, do you like this move by the Magic of just like, you know what? You either need a superstar guy who's like consistently on the All-Star team and not like, oh, this just made the All-Star team, a real superstar to compete. Yeah. And it feels like they're like, we need the Shaq Penny or Dwight Howard or just we got nothing. Yeah. We're going to blow it up and start fresh.
Here's why I like what they did. I think they sold at Vucevic's absolute peak. And that 2023 pick they got from Chicago, I like. We'll see if Wendell Carter can regain some of his value that made him the 7th overall pick of the draft. The Magic are going to be the worst team in the league the rest of the regular season, and they're going to try to get Cade Cunningham. They've got to totally rip it down. So, Jen, I actually like what they did. Vucevic is not going to ever be better than he is right now.
All right, let's talk some Lakers now. Lakers stood pat yesterday. Didn't make a move as they wait for LeBron and AD to get healthy for that repeat run. Hey, Brandon, the biggest surprise from yesterday's NBA trade deadline was blank.
The Raptors' asking price. Now, look, I'm no NBA insider, but I did a quick Google search. And my Google search, what I came up with was they were asking for 2 first-rounders, and and Kyle Lowry was asking for $25+ million extension, maybe 2-3 years. And then you guys, we came on the show and you and Chris talked about how they asked for the world. They asked for the entire Lakers team. Miami, they asked for Tyler Hero. So just to me, that asking price was way too much for a 35-year-old player whose best days are behind him. You can get the most for him right now. So why didn't you get this deal done? So that is the answer for me. I just don't understand it. You got Kyle Lowry right now, and you can get the most for him right now, Nick. Maybe you can help me out, resident GM.
No, I did think at some point Masai's asking price would go down, especially because in a normal year, you could be like, we're not going to trade him for nothing, as opposed to letting our fans watch him play out the rest of the year. But they're playing in Tampa. The Toronto fans aren't able to watch him play anyway. So I don't totally understand it. But here was my biggest surprise. There was no the Russian is cut moment. There was not a team out west that said, you know what? Let's bleepin' go for it. The Jazz, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Clippers. None of them said, guys, let's go for it. I understand the Clippers added Rondo replacing Lou Williams. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon. Please, tell me.
Put me on. Hold on. Let me take my notes out from what happened yesterday at the trade deadline. Rondo was traded to the Clippers. What are you talking about? Nobody went for it. Yeah. They get better. They take the pressure off of Kawhi. They take the pressure off of PG. They add the leadership. That's not going for it. Playoff Rondo. You don't believe in playoff Rondo.
He does not.
Switching out Lou Williams for Rondo is not going for it. And Aaron Gordon, I like Aaron Gordon's addition to the Nuggets, but Aaron Gordon's addition for the Nuggets isn't going for it. Wilds, are you not surprised that no one and I understand that Mavs got JJ Redick, but
really quick, they didn't need much.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon. Okay, I did.
Really quick.
How about then? Let's just focus on this. The Jazz and the Suns. That's the Jazz and the Suns, the top 2 teams in the West. They see AD is out, LeBron is out, and they do nothing. They don't go for it. I thought there would be you know what, let's go for it right now, and it didn't happen. I was surprised by that, Wilds.
I buy that. I feel like if they get healthy, AD and LeBron, and they make a run, I think Phoenix will be like, you know what? We should have been more aggressive. I think you're right, Nick. Jenna, real quick, my answer was the enthusiasm around Oladipo. Oladipo, great player, and I think the Heat fans were so excited that Pat Riley's machinations got them Oladipo on a deal. Then you look at a team like, oh, we got Goran and Bam and Jimmy Buckets. Now Oladipo like, all right, still probably fourth best team though. So like, sorry guys, it was cool, and I like the Pat Riley dancing around in his little pirate outfit, but still fourth best in the East.
Made the finals.
All right, let's
last year.
Set this aside. Talk about Knicks NBA medals. Russ booming on the Knicks last night, but New York came back to beat the Wizards, and Russ just missed a medal. So Nick, who you got on Friday?
All right, we'll go fast here. Bronze medalist. Speaking of those Heat, Bam Adebayo, 29-9-7 with 5 blocks, but they lost to the Blazers. Damian Lillard, 3 clutch free throws in the final minute. But Dame was not the star for the Blazers last night. CJ McCollum, 35-8 last night, as he was the best player on the court for an evening. CJ McCollum gets a bronze, and the ultra rare back-to-back gold medals, De'Aaron Fox. Young man I watched in person play AAU basketball his whole high school career. De'Aaron Fox, 44-7. Has scored 141 against the Warriors. It's very impressive when you can. De'Aaron Fox scored almost 50 points in a running clock first half AAU game I was at. I've never seen anything like it. Listen, Draymond, greatest defender ever, not rubbing off on his teammates evidently because they allowed 141 in regulation to the Kings. But De'Aaron Fox gets the gold. Wilds.
All right, who didn't? Wilds, who
last
didn't?
week Draymond got dropped and recovered and challenged a three-point shot. I was like, oh, it's actually a highlight. Didn't work here for Mr. Lee. Gets dropped, and then he's like, I'll challenge it too, just like Draymond. Nope, 4-point play. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it did work out because his ankle isn't broken.
Back here, first things first, it's time for Stories to Start Your Morning, brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. We're talking Dallas Cowboys. So Dak is back. They still got some problems, though, and they pretty much are all on the defensive side of the ball. Here's head coach Mike McCarthy on where it all went wrong with the defense last season.
We tried to change too much on defense would if we're looking for a mistake, and I don't think it's a mistake. We didn't get it done, so and that's just we went in with too much volume, but this was all part of the direction that Jerry and Steve and I, when we sat down, we felt that this football team, the direction it needed to go. So there was definitely some miss on the understanding of what fits and what didn't fit.
Too much volume, never good. Look at my hair. Cowboys defense last season, pretty dismal in all the categories listed right there on your screen. Hey, Brandon, will the Cowboys defense be the key to their success next season?
I'm buying what Coach McCarthy is saying right now. 100%. Nick, let me tell you who this is. Kevin, let me tell you who this is. This is the entire defense when I was playing in Denver and Mike Nolan was the defensive coordinator. It was the entire defense when I was playing in Miami when Mike Nolan was the defensive coordinator. Friday, Saturday, they're all in the playbook on the field. What's the saying? Study long, study wrong. Like if we're 24 hours away from a game and you're on the field and you're looking at all this stuff and like it's a science project, then we have a huge problem. I said this in week 4 when everybody was talking about this defense and how bad it was, and Woods came out and said effort. We don't give effort on every single play. I said, look, I called some of my buddies that played on that Dolphins team. I called some of my buddies that played on that team in Denver, and they said it's just too complex. So what Coach McCarthy is saying right now is absolutely correct. When you turn on film and you see guys not getting to the post when you have a simple quarters coverage is this: you break the football field up into quarters. corner, safety, safety, corner. And you have simple responsibilities. If this guy doesn't push up 10 yards, get your butt to the post. You wasn't seeing that. Why? Because they were thinking too much out there. So now you bring in coach who can solidify this defense and also just make it simple. I truly believe we're going to see a better defense. Now, how good would they be? I don't know, because you got to have personnel, but they will be better for that very reason.
So I think that's probably right. But one of the reasons this is what Mike McCarthy is selling is because this is all he has available for sale. Because he can't say, I'll tell you why we're going to be better. Look at who we brought in. Because they brought in Keanu Neal, and that's about it. Looks like they're going to let Aldon Smith walk. I don't totally understand that. Aldon Smith, amazingly, after 5 years out of football, seemed to have a pretty decent impact last year. Thought he would have had a better one this year. But for the most part, Wilds, it's the same team, personnel-wise. That when you invest as heavily as they have in retaining your own players, when you give out top-of-the-market deals to 3 offensive linemen, a wide receiver, a quarterback, a running back, a linebacker, a defensive end, you're not going to go shopping heavily in free agency. So if you want to be able to explain if you're Mike McCarthy, and you're like, okay, the defense was bad, I'm not going to blame me. I don't want to blame, the head coach didn't motivate him. That would be a bad idea. I can't blame them because they're all still here. So the only thing to say is it was too complicated. Brandon Marshall was right. And by the way, I'm not saying Brandon Marshall wasn't right. I'm simply saying this is the only available path they have to explain why the defense will be better, when I think it is probably part scheme and part personnel, because the personnel isn't overwhelming, Wilds.
So do you think, Nick, that sort of the bright lights of Dallas ends up hurting the team? That the Cowboys seem like a guy at the gym who's just like constantly benching and doing like bicep, like, oh yeah, these are like the big muscles that you like to train, and doesn't ever want to do squats, which like hurts your back and kind of you're over there in the corner. Because when you look at what they spend on offense, the bright lights, the big weapons, the fun part of the game, we'll call it, well, they're 10th. The defense, 31st. So, Nick, when it comes down to it, do you actually think schematically they'll be able to be, I'm not average, I'm talking about, like get to be an average defense? Because we know Washington is going to have the best defense in the division, maybe the Giants.
Well, that's the thing is, they all they need to do is be average. And when you've got, if DeMarcus Lawrence can have a bit of a bounce back year, if their linebackers can stay healthy, and if they don't have one of the worst secondaries in football, and the secondary should be better just from regression to the mean, the Cowboys they've spent their money, their draft capital, and their talents on offense. Their path to the division title is a top 4 offense in football and a defense that's just outside of the bottom 10. That's all they're really shooting for, I believe, Jenna.
All right, let's do a quick drawing a blank here to close out the week. Bunch of moves before yesterday's NBA trade deadline. So let's look into our crystal ball. Brandon, the favorite to win the title after everything that happened yesterday is blank.
Oh, Jenna, the Brooklyn Nets on January 13th made the biggest move you can make in the NBA outside of trading for LeBron James. So right now, the clear-cut favorite is the Brooklyn Nets. These guys, KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, the Beard, they're averaging 25-plus points a night. When they come together, there's nobody that can stop them. That's what the answer is.
Weighted down by all those jerseys.
I agree with you when they come together. We were just talking in the break about going to a Nets game. Who's going to be playing? Who knows? I know if we went to a Bucks game, we'd probably see the entire Bucks team, so I'm going with the Bucks, Nick.
Yeah, listen, you have the Bucks as the favorites. I like that. I think the Lakers have been the favorites all year. I think they're still the favorites. That nobody a week ago thought they had to make a move at the deadline. But a shout out at the end of the week to our producers for finding this highlight. Do you know how hard it is to find a Rajon Rondo made basket in a Hawks uniform? There's only been 44 of them. They had to scour the whole internet to find them, and they found them. Good job, guys. Good job, everyone.